An older cowboy won a massive fortune, and he had a phenomenal relationship with his granddaughter. She became the drug dealer, the pusher in the school. As a result, she herself became addicted to hard drugs and ultimately passed away of an overdose. They asked this grandfather how he feels about his winnings today, and he says clearly that if he could do it all over again, he would give every single penny back because that would get him his granddaughter back.
The trust factor is your ticket to a better life. The trust factor shows you how to get through the night.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. It's another day, another beautiful day on another episode of the Trust Factor podcast. Reading forward a little bit, and it's still talking about finances. It's not surprising. It shouldn't come as a shock to you because finances are important. Most people spend a lifetime chasing dollars. And so I thought to myself, maybe it's time to move forward. Maybe it's time to kind of switch gears a little bit, but no. There's no such thing as coincidence. There's a reason why we're reading this. There's a reason it's not letting up. And it just happens to be that this is the part of the podcast that God wants us to focus on. Why? Well, if you think about it for a second, just on Friday, it was announced, a very, very big announcement. Now, the media is not talking about it. Even the prime minister's not talking about it. They're avoiding the subject like the plague. You know why? Because if they talk about it, that means it's important. And so the fact that they're not talking about it, and when they do, so far from what I've seen, they're busy trying to minimize just how important this revelation is. And the revelation is the fact that we are now into a recession. Canada is officially into, now I could have told you that we were in recession a long time ago because I'm in business. And anybody in business could have told you the same thing. But it's been made official, which means they're no longer able to hide it. They're no longer able to sweep it under the rug. They're no longer able to avoid the conversation because the numbers are speaking volumes. Now, if you've never been in a recession, hard times are ahead, my friends, for a lot of people. Doesn't necessarily mean for everybody. There are always ways to make money, even in recession. But that does mean, generally speaking, that finances are going to get tighter. So it's an important subject for everybody. And that's why we do not have license to move on from here. God says, keep reading, my friend. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So we're about to get back into it, but this is going to get Kabbalistic. We're about to get into Jewish mysticism and how the view of finances works from a spiritual perspective when it comes to the back office, the way things run in the other realm and how that affects us in this realm. So let's read. First, let's lay out a quick foundation. You can believe that the Creator predetermined your income. It's entirely up to you. Or you could believe the opposite. You can believe that the Creator predetermines your income and that every single last penny that is coming your way is going to make it into your hands at the exact time and in its entirety. If not from one source, then from a different source. He doesn't lack ways to give you your income. It can come from 100 different sources. As a result, if you operate like that, what ends up happening? You're calm and you're composed, and you avoid troubles and illegal situations, dishonest business practices, hypertension, ulcers, and cardiac arrest. You know how many people lose their minds and get sick because they're chasing dollars all day long? They're trying to become wealthy, and they're going to do it even when things aren't working out, and especially when things aren't working out. If I'm not getting it the way that I want it to come, then I will get it one way or another. And oftentimes people end up in illicit and illegal transactions because it's whatever it takes. Life is challenging. It's very demanding, and it doesn't seem to be getting any easier. Cost of living is going through the roof. It's no coincidence that it's so expensive to live in Canada at the exact same time that they're declaring a recession. So people will resort to whatever it takes to be able to feed their families because they think that as long as I have that money in the bank, then I will never need for anything. I will always have the resources to be able to take care of myself, number one, and the people who are depending on me. And so they'll resort to whatever tactics are required in order to make a buck. He says a person receives his or her heavenly stipend to the last penny By cheating and lying and dealing dishonestly in business, a person won't earn even one penny more. Whereas an honest person enjoys every penny that he earns. A dishonest person will only suffer from the money that he makes. When you make money in a legitimate way that is above board, that Hashem says this is kosher, you can make money that way, then you get to enjoy the money that you make. It comes with a blessing that you're able to enjoy it, that you're able to parlay it into other things and get goodness from goodness. But if God forbid you cheat and steal and lie and do whatever it takes to be able to get money at everybody else's expense, then the big boss looks and goes, that can't be blessed. That needs to be cursed. And that money is often cursed. Not only does it not bring you the good things that you think should come with money, but it causes you more heartache. It causes you more stress and anxiety. It actually invites more problems into your life to the point where you may even regret having made that money in an illicit way. I've seen videos. Forget about illicit. You have to be prepared. Remember what I was talking about the other day when I said that you have to be prepared to move on to the next stage of life. You have to enjoy being 9 years old and 15 years old because that is the springboard to growth, emotional maturity. If you miss out on a childhood, then you have a corrupt adulthood. That childhood builds a foundation for your adulthood. It's those experiences. It's what you go through as a child that helps form you as an adult. And it's the similar idea over here. So many people just want the riches. Just give me all the millions. I'll know how to handle it. You think you'll know how to handle it, but he knows better. And so he withholds it from you because he knows that it's only going to be detrimental for you. I remember a documentary that was done a while back. I'm sure they still do them. But what they do is they go and they check back in with lottery winners. They check in with people who've won massive fortunes in the lottery and see where their life is at. Now, I know it's not going to come as a surprise to you that 9.5 out of 10 of them are broke. 9.5 out of 10 people who won big money, tens and hundreds of millions of dollars, are broke not long after they won that money. How does that make any sense? How does somebody have $50 million? They went from having zero to having $50 million, and within a few short years, it's gone, evaporated, nothing left to show for it. It happens all of the time. There was an older cowboy, probably out of some Western state, a very big jackpot winner. And he was an elderly fellow, probably into his 60s at the time. And he won a massive fortune. And he had a phenomenal relationship with his granddaughter. The two were very, very close. And he wanted to spoil her rotten, and it's exactly what he did. He would give her whatever she wanted. He showered her with all types of material possessions and cash, and he would send her to school with all kinds of money. Well, you know what ended up happening? That granddaughter of his ended up supplying her friends, because she wanted to be the cool kid, with all kinds of illicit drugs. She became the drug dealer, the pusher in the school, not because she was trying to hurt people, but because she was trying to be popular. And as a result, she herself became addicted to hard drugs and ultimately passed away of an overdose. And they asked this grandfather, I'll never forget, how he feels about his winnings today. And he says clearly that if he could do it all over again, he would give every single penny back, because that would get him his granddaughter back. We don't understand this, guys. We have no clue. We just see dollar signs. We just watch on social media and on Hollywood on the big screen what it's like to have all this money and power and fame. It must be fantastic. But in reality, if you're not primed for it, if you're not a vessel ready to receive so that you know what to do with it and you're not going to cause more harm than good, then he withholds it from you. First, he needs to establish, you need to establish for yourself and for him that you are a worthy vessel, and that when that money does come, you won't hurt yourself and your families with it. Instead, you will help make this world a better place. Another example that's not connected to lottery. A good friend of mine, a business associate, often reminds me of the story of his brother-in-law and his sister, who were in business for themselves in the US a long time ago, probably 20 years ago. And they sold their business to a very large corporation for over $50 million. These are simple Canadian people from Northern Ontario who did well in business and sold their company to a major American company and made off like bandits in the night. But above board, they made all this money and it was completely legitimate. And a few short years later, they are living in the basement of their daughter's house, who herself is paying rent. They can't afford a mortgage. They can't afford a house. They can't afford basic living necessities. How's that possible? A few short years ago, they sold for $50+ million after working hard at it. It's not like a lottery winner that it just fell into their hands. They worked hard at it and they were successful, but they didn't know how to manage that wealth. It got to their head. It ended up going up their nose. It ended up going out the door, every other place but where it should have gone to, because they simply weren't ready for that kind of wealth. My friends, it comes with a certain amount of responsibility. Let's get into Kabbalah. Let's get into the Jewish mysticism and that outlook on finances. And it says that the Creator makes sure that every person receives what he needs according to his soul correction. We've said that before. Everybody has a purpose, a soul correction, and he needs to make sure that you're given everything that you need in order to achieve your soul's correction. That way, after 120 years, when you get up to the pearly gates, you have no complaint against him. He's given you everything that you need, everything down to the smallest detail. Your food, your clothing, your house, your car, and everything else is precisely tailored to each individual according to your soul's correction. The Kabbalists refer to the divine will that is concealed within every detail of creation as sparks. In Hebrew, it's nitzotzot, sparks that of divinity, right? Just as sparks are tiny particles of a greater fire, the divine sparks within each part of creation are proverbial parts of the overall divine will. During a person's life, he receives the things that he needs to perform his mission. We are all sparks of a creator. What does that mean? It means God blew into us when he created Adam and Eve. He blew into us a part of him, and that part of him is a spark of him. And more than that, again, Kabbalistically, we are all sparks of our original neshama, of our original soul that stood at Mount Sinai and received the Torah. From there, we are all sparks of that original neshama, meaning we've come back in fragments to be able to fix those fragmented parts of our life. It says that a merchant, somebody who's in business, who has emunah, needs to know that every article in his or her inventory in the stock room is under the influence of absolute divine providence. The Creator alone decides on a certain object, whether it's a 20-room mansion or a tube of toothpaste, when it's sold and to whom and for what price. It is all managed. The Creator engineers that each object should reach the hands of its rightful owner. Therefore, every object has its buyer, who has a connection to the sparks within that object. Kabbalistically speaking, everything has its hour when it ultimately returns to its spiritual root. He says that if there is no common spiritual denominator between you and that object, it's not coming your way. You need to have a connection to it. It needs to have a reason to be in your possession. It doesn't come randomly. There is nothing in your possession that does not need to be there. Everything is that exacting. Imagine, never mind the mansion, never mind the Ferraris, never mind the businesses, a tube of toothpaste. If it's not supposed to be in your possession at this stage of your life, you will not be able to use toothpaste to brush your teeth. If you walk around thinking like that, gives you a completely different appreciation for the calculations that God puts into this world to make sure that each one of us, 8 billion people on planet Earth, have exactly what we need at any given time to become successful. He says a business deal, any business deal, a barter, a trade, a purchase, a sale, occurs only because the creator has decided that it needs to be done. If he doesn't decide it, it's not happening. It could stand on your head. It won't get done. When the time is ripe for a certain commodity or a piece of merchandise to reach the domain of a particular soul, the transaction is completed. And if not, it won't happen. Not before and not after. That soul needs that object to attain its perfection, its soul's correction. Think about it. There is no such thing as randomness. If you have something, it's because that thing will help you to achieve your soul's correction. That includes a car, that includes a house, that includes a tube of toothpaste, that includes the ability to breathe. If you are here and you are given things, the entirety of your life and that snapshot of what it looks like at any given time is that way because it needs to be in order for you to be successful. Stop thinking about the things that you want. Stop thinking about the things that you think you need in order to be successful. You have no idea. You think you know because society is telling you what they want you to think and what they want you to chase after, where they want your time and money. That's where they want you to focus your time and attention. So that's what they'll put in your head. But reality is that everything that you have is exactly what you need, not a drop less and not a drop more. Instead of looking at all the things that you think you need, focus on all the wonderful things that you have and utilize them to be able to reach your soul's correction. Have an amazing day, my friends.
Thank you for spending time with us on the Trust Factor podcast. If you've heard something today that moved you, save this episode and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss upcoming conversations that challenge, empower, and uplift. And if you're on social media, connect with us. Leave your thoughts. Drop a quote that resonated with you. Hashtag the Trust Factor podcast. Until next time, keep growing in your trust and keep living with purpose. I'm Jesse Revivo, and this has been the Trust Factor podcast. Thanks for listening.